Hey, this is Gary. I'm going to do a little Linux work on the command line with some directory commands. Let me share my screen here. Off we go. I think sharing the right screen. We'll find out in a minute. Can I move the Zoom stuff? Nope. And I don't want to see me at the moment. All right, so hopefully you're seeing my command line here. And I just want to check a couple of things. Notice I ran an ls command, and that showed I have CS140, documents, music, public, and that dark blue, kind of hard to read, that bad contrast there. I'll have to fix that later. And then I did an ls, which is list, CS140. The end slash there means it's a directory. Just like the blue color above means it's a directory, and you can see I have 3 files in there. They're in white, chapter3 text, new file. And the chapter3 text, playing with commands, I created those in class earlier with the script command, which records what I type and what's output to the screen. Before I get to that, I just want to go over directory awareness a little bit. And I'm going to do another couple of commands here. Let's do an ls slash. That means go to the root directory, the partition of the hard drive I'm working on right now. And we can see that there's a few things there. Let's see, the bin directory, the boot directory, dev directory, etc, home, etc. So those are all folders, directories living in the root basic level, the bottom level of this particular partition on the hard drive. And then inside those, like if I do an ls/home, we can see that there is a Gary and a lost and found directory, and ls/home/Gary. Remember, these are case sensitive. Shows what I had above, and if I do a pwd, print working directory, that shows that I'm in home Gary. So ls space/home/Gary gives me the same thing as ls on its own, because ls is always going to list what's in your current directory. Current directory is your working directory. So if I change directory, for example, I change into my documents directory, capital D for documents on this computer, and I do an ls there, we can see that lists different files. And if I do a pwd there, we can see that I'm in the directory documents. And typically your command prompt will indicate that. So for example, earlier up here at the top, it says Gary at Gary's MSI, colon, there's a little tilde there that's kind of hard to see. It's in a darker color. And then the $sign. The tilde means I'm in my home directory. And my home directory is /home/Gary. So when you're working on the command line, you have to be aware of what directory you're in and where that directory sits with respect to other directories. So quick sketch of that idea. So let's say, hopefully this is going to work here, that this is a sketch of my hard drive. And my hard drive has a partition in it, and that partition is where my Linux lives. All right, so on this computer, this is my SSD, and then on that SSD is a partition for my Linux that I'm running right now. And at the bottom level of that Linux is where everything lives. I'm going to call that slash. So inside of slash is a place called bin. There's another place called boot. There's another place called etc. There's another place called home, and so on. There's a whole bunch of other ones. And then inside of home lives a directory called Gary. There's another one called lost and found. And Gary has a whole bunch of directories in it. Inside Gary, there's documents, and there's downloads, and there's a bunch of other stuff, like I made a CS140 folder in there the other day, or directory, and so on. So that's kind of the file structure sketched out there. And in Linux, especially on the command line, you have to be aware of what directory you're in. All right. back here, let's play around. So for example, if I run the script file, if I don't give it any other information, is going to record what I do, and it's going to output it into a file, and that file is going to reside in the place that I'm right now. So I'm in home Gary document. So if I just run script right now, it's going to make a file called TypeScript, and into that file is going to record all the input and output of whatever I do on this particular terminal window. If I wanted to add my work to what I was doing the other day, so for example, I do an ls on that CS. Oh, I'm in the wrong folder. That's why it's beeping at me. If you do an ls with, a cd, change directory, with nothing there, it'll just put you in your home directory, excuse me. So now if I do a pwd, you can see I'm back in home Gary. And now if I do lscs tab, it'll complete the tab, and what I was trying to type and say, oh, yes, CS140 is what you wanted there. The slash at the end, it automatically put because it's a directory. And with or without the slash, it should work okay, by the way, unless there's a file called CS140. That would be a little problematic. Hitting enter on the keyboard for that, it says, oh yeah, inside that folder, you have a chapter 3 text and a new file text and a playing with commands text. And if I do an LL, which is the same as ls-l for list long, that shows more file details. And oops, I wanted to do that. Also shows all files in this, the way I have it set up. So I want to do that on the CS folder. I can see that my chapter 3 file was last edited on January 13th. Same with playing with commands and new text file. So if I wanted to continue to add commands using script into that chapter 3 file, then I have to tell script to use it and append to it. So the correct way to do that would be to start typing script, then finish it, and then locate that file. So that file, I'm in my root directory, my home directory, sorry. So that would be CS140. Inside CS140 lives chapter 3. And again, use tab to complete what you type to make sure you get things typed correctly. Because if you mistype something, you'll get an error of some kind. And so right now, what this will do, if I run it as it is, it will dump everything I type into that file and replace whatever was there. Oh, shit, replace, that's not good. I want to add to what was there. Oh, right. So then I need a -A option to say, pick up where I left off. Right? Don't erase what I had before and type over it, add to it. And that's the -A, which stands for append. So that's what I want to do. If you were just starting from scratch on a new file, you would just do script and then the file name. Okay. So I'm going to do that. That's going to add to what's there. To confirm that, let's actually back up a little bit. Let's look inside that file with cat. And then it outputs what I did the other day. So I'm just going to scroll up a little bit here. Okay, so this line right here is where I said, okay, show me what's inside that script file. It says script started this file on the 13th at 11:15 a.m. And there are 24 lines in this file. And the other day I did an ls slash, and you can see ls is a little different on CS140 than it was today because I put that new file in there. Yeah, so these are the commands I ran in class the other day, and I don't want to erase these because this is some of what I was supposed to do for chapter 3. I want to add to it. Right. So I'm just going to clear my screen here. You don't have to clear your screen. You can keep scrolling through it. Actually, I'm not even going to bother clearing it. I'm just going to keep running. So let's get script going on that file in CS140 called chapter 3, and don't forget to append to it, otherwise you will delete what was there. Okay, I look right? Yep, enter. So now I'm adding to it. So you should do a little Linux every day. This isn't something you can cram in one day because there's a lot to learn. So some basic commands related to directories. ls will list everything in your current directory. And each operating system, each version of Linux colors things a little bit different. And you can change the color scheme in a couple of different ways. Usually the terminal app has preferences you can play with to adjust the colors, or that's something you can put in your .bashrc or .profile file. I haven't done that in a long time, so I have to look up how to do that on some how-to online. So ls list, that's a good one to know. If you want to make sure you see any hidden files, that's ls-a. Some of us in our bash rc or our bash profile will have a shortcut for ls-a, which is just la, and that'll do something similar. This version of LA adds slashes to the ends of directories, which is cool, and it doesn't show the dot and the double dot. What's the dot and the double dot? Good question. If I do an ls dot, that's the same as doing ls on its own. It just shows what's in the current directory. Ls double dot, the double dot means this directory lives in another directory. So the double dot will look back one step in the directory structure and show me what lives in the directory that the directory Gary lives in. Which directory is that? Well, if I do a pwd, it'll show me that I'm in the directory Gary, which lives in the directory home, which is at the root directory of this partition. So pwd, print working directory, is another good command to know. Next directory command that's important, cd, change directory. If you do a cd with nothing after it, that's always going to move you into your home directory. Now, I'm already in my home directory, so it's not going to do anything. Check with pwd. If you would do a cd space / that will take you into the root directory. Now, notice here that before there was a tilde behind my $sign. Now there is a slash behind my $sign, indicating that I'm not in my home directory, tilde, I'm in the root directory of this partition. And right now, that's probably the only partition I have access to because I don't think any others have been mounted. We'll talk about mounting partitions later in the class. So again, if I do a pwd, it should say slash, meaning I'm in the root directory, ls to see what's in the root directory, LA to show hidden files, and then more details. I think the @ sign at the end means it's an executable file, means you can run it and it does shit. Slash further identifies it as a directory. The green, what does the green do? I'm not sure. Let's do an LL on that. It's probably something to do with permissions. Yes, we'll talk about permissions later. The D in front of it means it's a directory. And notice that most directories say wxr-xr-x. So I guess I'll talk about this right now. The D stands for directory. The XRW, that is whoever owns this, that is their permissions on that. So the root user has read, write, execute access on that directory. Anyone that's in the root group has read and execute permissions, but not write permissions. And everybody else on the system has read and execute permissions in that directory, but they don't have write permissions. So what that means is I couldn't edit a file in media, but I can look at the files in media and I can execute them if they're executable files, like some program you might run, like a terminal script, like a web browser, things like that. But notice temp is different. Temp has read, write, execute, and then the T bit. Ooh, I forgot what the T bit means. Let's look that up quick. Let's see, Linux permissions, X versus T. T is a sticky bit. Yes, right. What does T mean exactly? What does it mean to be a sticky bit? These days, T is not all that useful for some reason. All right, we'll get to that later anyway, but it's similar to X, but it means something slightly different, and it's referred to as the sticky bit. Anyway, but notice because of that slightly different permission set of settings there, that the temp is colored differently. So that's part of the setup in either a general bash settings file or in my user's specific bash settings file about how to colorize that. Actually, or it could be in the preferences for the terminal. There's a bunch of places that setting could live that makes it that particular color. So let's see, I mentioned before that if you just do CD with nothing, it just throws you back into your root directory. And then if I do a pwd, we can see there I am. All right, so change directory is important. It allows you to move around. It's kind of like, just you do a point and click like that. And in your file browser, when you do that in a file browser, it's running commands like this in the background and just drawing pretty pictures of them for you to see. So all this stuff runs in the background all the time. How about let's CD into my documents for fun again and look inside my documents. And then maybe I could CD into my work folder and look to see what's in there. And then, let's suppose I do a bunch of other stuff and I want to look back a directory. I could do an ls space ... That'll look back into the directory preceding the one I'm in. So I'm in work. So then the ls ... look side tells me what's in documents. And notice you can see work is in there. Sometimes you want to make new directories. So if I wanted to create a new directory in my work directory, so let's say I have a directory for art and base and Julia and work and Zoom. I have some administration stuff to do for the college. So maybe I want to create a directory. So that's MK for make, dir. And I want to make a directory called admin. So now if I do an ls, we should see, oops, oh, I put it in the wrong spot. I put it in work. Remember the directory awareness thing I said before? I wasn't paying attention to what directory I was in, which is okay. I can move it, and I might need a special option to move a directory. Let's try and see what happens. If I try to move admin back one directory, will it just do it, or is it going to yell at me? Ooh, it did it. I think if admin had a bunch of other stuff like folders and files, we'd have to do a recursive move. Let's do a man on move, MV. And if I want to search for something in here, I do a slash, and then I'm just going to start typing recurse. Oh, it's not in there. Interesting. I thought there was such an option here for move. No, okay. Move must automatically do that. I must be confusing it with maybe copy. Cool, all right. Then it's as easy as that. You can move files and directories with move. So now let's back up a directory, cd ... and that puts me in documents. And now if I ls documents, I should see that there's an admin. And notice it's displayed a little bit different. So the ls command, based on some other things in the configuration of your shell, in this case I'm in the bash shell, will put things in 1, 2, 3, 4 columns depending on how many things are in there and how long each file or directory name is. Okay, if you make a directory and then later you decide, no, I don't need the directory anymore, like maybe I don't want that admin directory, then I can do an rm for remove directory. So it'd be rmdir, remove directory. I want to remove admin. Again, use this with caution because you're basically taking it out of existence. And sometimes you'll get warnings when you try to do something like this, and sometimes you won't. So let's just do it. It should go because there's nothing in it. Now if I ls, admin is now gone. And all of this is being recorded by the script directory, script command. So let's see, that's it for basics on directory stuff. What I'm going to do next is just leave script. So if I just type exit, then I will be done with script. And if I want to see what's in script, oh, that's interesting. So while I was running script, I had moved into documents, but before I started script, I was in my home directory. So when I edited script, it bounced me back to my home directory. Kind of an interesting thing script does. Let's see, next. Let's double check that file. If I do an ls-l on my CS140 folder, we should see that it was recently updated. So now we can see chapter 3 file has a January 18th date, whereas before it had a January 13th date. So there's more stuff in it. If I cat that file, it'll show me everything inside and all that new stuff I did with looking at the manual page for move, changing directory, back one directory, ls to look what's in there, removing the admin directory, and so on, has been added to the stuff I did last week or earlier in the week, which is way back here. This was the stuff I did in class the other day. All right, then once you're done with a chapter's script file, then you need to share it with me. How are you going to do that? I'm going to show that next. So I'm going to bring my web browser in here and go to that assignment. So let's go into Linux. And then I'm going to jump into the student view so it looks like you see it. And my computer might slow down to a point where I can't continue because this is my old laptop. Let's hope. So this would be part of my assignment for the read and do. And then I'm going to choose Start Assignment. That'll give me the text box down here. And what I would do, usually I type my notes in Google Docs, so I would put a link to my Google Doc here. And then I would also attach this file. So you're going to do that. A couple ways to do it. Somewhere over here, this one right here is the documents file. You can also go to Insert Document, does the same thing. So I want to upload my script file here. So I have to go find it. So it's under Gary, CS140 is where I put mine, and then chapter 3 is the one I want to upload. You don't want to copy and paste it in there. That doesn't work very well because it's a binary file. It's going to try and show a preview, and it's not going to look like anything. You're going to submit it anyway. So now it's attached so that I can go in and download it, and I can do the cat on it so I can see the commands you ran color-coded to see how you did. And if you have any questions about that, please let me know. So again, the way I work on this class, I would have my file attached like that, and then I would also have a link to my Google Doc outline for chapter 3, and I would put that link in here by just adding an external link to my chapter 3 outline. And then I would put the link right there for it, which is in my, I'd have to get the share link from Google Docs. Otherwise, if you want, you could just type it right in here using the bulleted list option. And that's fine too. And then once you got that in there, submit it. And if you want to double check that your submission worked right, you can go to your submission details. Woohoo, confetti. And in submission details should be a link there. And if you click on that link, it should try to view the file, which won't view very well. Let's get out of this screen. Yeah, so it looks like shit there. That's okay. Close. What we want to do is hit the download button to check it. So if you wanted to check to see if it uploaded right, then you could download it. What I'm going to do when I'm ready to grade your thing is I'm going to download it. It put it in my downloads file. It called it a number 2 because apparently I already have one in there from someone else or myself. And then I can go over to my terminal and check it to make sure it views right. So I would do something to view it, do cat. It went in my downloads. It starts with chapter 3. If I hit tab twice, it'll show me all the ones in there. And the latest one I downloaded was the parentheses 2 one. And parentheses have to be backslashed. So sometimes special characters and file names are a problem. Same thing with if you put spaces in the file name, they have to be escaped with a backslash in order to be able to reference them on the command line. So we should, for the most part, avoid using special characters in Linux. And there's my file. Looks all pretty, right? Big contrast to the way it looked when Canvas tried to do it. Okay, that's it for now. More later. If you have questions, contact me. Adios.